All right, I hope you guys don't mind a bit of stream of consciousness. First off, thanks for everyone who's watching. I really appreciate it. I wouldn't have an opportunity to talk to even 5 or 6 people in real life, but the magic of YouTube is that I can put out a message. People can take it, they can like it, they can love it, they can hate it. They could comment on how they feel, and it's just nice. I feel like it's good to stir the pot a little bit, not for the sake of stirring the pot, but just getting another, you know, outlook out there, right? And my outlook is usually very different. So I score 0 on agreeability. Like I'm the most disagreeable person out of 1,000. If you grab 1,000 random people, I will probably be the most disagreeable of them, which is kind of a pain in the butt for people around me, right? But it's really good for finding the truth, which is why I'm an engineer, right? I'm the one who will tell you in a meeting if the rocket ship's not going to work. I don't care how many executives are there or how much managerial pressure is there. Like I will not sign off on the launch. It's an important skill. And right now I'm seeing that the right is making a lot of really silly mistakes about what America is, because you have to look at revealed preferences if you really want to understand how people feel. And revealed preferences is a historical record. Like you have to have a track record of revealed preferences. You can't just drink Pepsi once and then say, oh, America loves Pepsi now. They're like, no, they've been drinking Coca-Cola for like 100 years or something, right? So which one do they really like? Is it a fad? Is it gonna change? You have to look at the revealed preferences over time. And I think that Tim Pool here made a huge mistake or is saying something very silly. So I will describe that here soon. Just get the audio queued up. I'm gonna mute myself.
Tommy Robinson has been calling out grooming gangs in the UK. He's been very critical of mass migration and the conflict between the cultures being imported to the UK and to the culture of the UK. For this, he has found himself imprisoned more than once and tortured more than once. A few months ago, we interviewed Tommy Robinson via Zoom or some video link on the culture war. And we told him, Tommy, if you go back to the UK, they're going to put you in prison. And he said he knew. He knew. The story that's emerged over the past week is one of the most shocking and terrifying stories I've ever heard. It is so extreme that, in fact, I can't even read some of what The Telegraph is reporting. Now, The Telegraph is a prominent newspaper in the UK, one of the most prominent.
I might skip around this video a bit.
How the grooming gang scandal was covered up. The child victims of rape were denied justice and protect cultural society. Preserve the image of a successful and protection from the state to preserve the image of a successful multicultural society. My friends, multiculturalism is a fake thing. It doesn't exist. It doesn't work. It's a lie.
Now, if you want to get more context, I'll try to put a link in the YouTube video, but you could find it pretty easily. Tim's okay. Does Tim form that opinion after maybe like getting some Chinese takeout or going to Little Italy, or maybe his Korean mom who immigrated to the United States? I think that's how it goes. Like, America is a successful multicultural society. I mean, even it's a different culture even between the Pilgrims, right? Who showed up. There was 2 groups on the Pilgrim ships on the Mayflower. There's the Saints and the Strangers. The Saints were the sort of puritanical ones, and they were like super straight-laced, uber Christians. The absolute finger waggers, you'll see them. They'll tell you that this is ungodly this and ungodly that, and the wrath of an angry God, all this stuff. Hey, all that good stuff, right? If it keeps them on the path, that's the path, right? But there's also the people called the strangers who are going pretty much to either, I don't know, escape bad conditions in Europe or make a fortune, right? They were not religious. So even in America's first boats of European settlers, that actually made it. Like, I think there's Roanoke Colony was a bit earlier. But anyways, the first settlers had cultural differences. It was multicultural at the very first boat. It was the first boatload. Sorry, I got the unfortunate frame to pause. It looks like Tim's about to sneeze at all times. I'll come back. Right? And it's always been getting more and more multicultural, right? These Italians didn't just spring out of the ground, okay? They're not like dwarves from Middle Earth, okay? They're not, we didn't get Irish people, a massive influx of Irish people until around the Civil War, right? Because the United States was trying to import people to fill the armies of the North so they can fight in the Civil War. I mean, the thing about multiculturalism is that different cultures take up different jobs too. Like, you will see this. All right. We always talk about food, which food is fine. That's kind of trite. It's kind of played out. All right, get Indian food takeout. We didn't bring in multiculturalism isn't just to give you different food. Okay. You'll notice that there's a stereotype of like Irish policemen of New York and Boston and stuff, because the Irish actually in mass would join the police force. That was their niche. That was agreeable to their culture, to their background. And you had a lot of Irish policemen. Yeah, Italian people found a lot of restaurants. They also went into a lot of business. Apparently, during the Great Depression and Prohibition, they got a little bit involved in the import-export business. Okay, if you know what I mean. So these different and Indians and Chinese and Anglos go into the high-tech industry, or Anglos, by and large, go into farming, or it's the Germans that go into farming. Like all the Amish. Like the United States is a multicultural society. Now, what he's talking about here, if I let him go on for a little bit longer, but you can watch the video, is he says like, well, you can't have cultures that hate your country. That he's correct about. So it's about cultures that aren't anathema to what you're doing here. So what is America, right? Like, what is America? Is America a nation? I would actually argue no. America is an empire, and empires do not have a fixed. There might be a ruling ethnicity, but that's not the way America manages it, right? So the way that empires manage ethnicities varies from empire to empire. Often, if they start playing favorites, the empire again gets decadent and falls apart, right? Because you end up having ethnic strife. It's inevitable. Sorry, just mixing moving my anti-fatigue mat here. They can die out. The empire can die out if the cultures are not managed properly, right? So America manages multiculturalism through meritocracy. We will have people compete. So you have this pretty much gladiator arena where everyone gets a shot. It's not a fair shot, by the way. Well, the competition is regulated, but it's neither fair nor balanced, right? You're going to have billionaire kids competing against Appalachian kids who learned at the library. They're going to be competing for the same jobs, okay? Often, the billionaires are going to win out, and that's just how it goes. America doesn't seem to mind that. In fact, if you see our competitions, like the reason why equity is so insidious and anti-American is it hijacks America's predisposition towards wanting fair competition, right? And I'm putting my foot on the ground saying that we don't actually want fair competition. It doesn't have to be fair. It doesn't have to be equal. It doesn't have to be balanced. Like, what we want to see is that people will rise up to their fullest, their best. People will be their very best. Now, who is going to be that very best? IQ determines a lot of success in this modern world, right? We have a modern world that moves fast, it moves smart, and it moves peacefully, right? So if you're a violent, slow person, you're not going to do super great. Especially if you're violent, you're going to end up in prison, or you're going to be on Jocko Willink's podcast because you made a good career as a soldier or something in the special forces. There is a place for violence and violent people in the world. I don't believe in just locking them away. I have this hashtag I like to put in there called Free Bronson, for Charlie Bronson, who's an extremely violent man, but he just wants to fight. That's all he wants. That's what he's built for. So I was like, instead of putting him in prison, I'd be like, well, put him to fight. This man's born to be a gladiator or a soldier or something. Anyways, America celebrates greatness that is unlocked with competition. That is how we manage the ethnicities in our empire, right? That's why nobody minds it if the Chinese guy who came from nothing builds himself a little empire. Like, let's say he's a dentist. He goes to dental school, right? Becomes a dentist, #1 dentist. People say, hey, God bless America. They don't care if he's Anglo or not. So if you think that and he's going to act like a Chinese person, right? He's fully Chinese. The thing is, he's okay with the competition. Now, it's people that aren't okay with competition become anathema. People who think they should get special benefits. People who think that the finger should be tipped on the scales in their favor for some reason or another, or some grievance. We played that out with the wokeness stuff. We played that out with the grievance study stuff. And it looks like America's kind of over with. Like, the revealed preference now is that if you said, like, 4 years ago, you'd think America's going to go completely woke. It's going to go completely racial equity, race communism, sort of race, tipping the scales in favor of one race or another. Well, you might have been able to say that, but, as the Zen master would say, just wait. Well, America's just spat that out with a quickness. It was slipping, and then it was slipping a little bit by bit, and then just all at once. And now AOC's taking pronouns out of her bio, and and BLM is nowhere to be found. Okay, it's just things have completely changed. There is a spirit of fairness in competition, but Americans don't actually care if the underdog wins, right? So yes, there are underdogs in competitions. Yes, in some like sports movies and stuff that people love, the sort of stories that people hang on to. Yeah, the underdog wins, but what's the biggest sports movie franchise in the world, like in history? Well, I'd argue that maybe it's Rocky, right? Rocky doesn't win in the first movie. I don't know if you guys have watched that movie. He doesn't win, but he goes the distance. He actually realizes his potential, and the opponent no longer sees him as a publicity stunt, but as an equal. That's the thing, is like, if you just get some good hits in, it doesn't matter how disadvantaged you are. That's what America wants to see. Like, you got in there and you stood toe to toe and you fought as hard as you could. That's what America wants to see, that you fought as hard as you could. Sometimes that means you're going to just have a farm and be just a simple farmer, like a peasant, as someone call it. I call it peasant. I'm proud to be a peasant. I'm a proud pleb. I am pleb power, 100%. I'm very proud of that, because that is where I would like to be. That is with my disposition. I have the IQ to be an engineer. I have the IQ to be a lot of things, but frankly, I'd rather be listening to bluegrass and sipping on some bourbon and hanging out and watching the onions grow. Okay, that's what I want to do. All right. There's a former emperor, I think, of Rome, who went into retirement and started a farm, and they asked him to come back to help save Rome. And he says, if you'd seen the way these cabbages grow, the way I'd grow these cabbages, you would not ask me to come back. Like, this man was just gardening. That's where I'm at. I just want to garden. I will return back to public life later. This YouTube channel is part of it. By the way, like, comment, and subscribe if you like this content. I really appreciate it. People have been really positive. I really like it. Sometimes people are going to be negative. I'm going to say controversial stuff. Again, score is 0, 0, 0, 0. Love my zeros. I score a 0 on my agreeability. So I'm going to say stuff that you guys don't like, and I tend to just say what I see. Like, you know, from the mouth of babes. And this is what I'm saying, is that America wants competition, and we don't have any favoritism of ethnic groups. Now, we defeated wokeness, right? Well, unfortunately, there's also this desire for ethnic protection and favoritism on the right? Like the we lived here, this is our home people. Like, America doesn't care. Like, that's the revealed preference of America, is we don't care. We did it to the natives here. We'll continue to do it to the natives here. We don't care about your identity. Like, if you're saying it's like some European country is your homeland and you're European and things are changing, my disposition and the disposition of most Americans is like, why haven't you done something about it? Like, why aren't you doing the Scott Pressler thing and going out and knocking on doors and getting votes, right? I mean, maybe it's because your government is restricting you from doing that, and that sucks. That's the tipping of the scales. But when we see that you're just getting the consequences of what your quality allows, right? As I said in one of my previous videos of what is America, the bum who was on the street who like had everything, he was the CEO, and then he got into a big drug binge, you know, and fell from grace. That's part of the American dream too. Like, he's getting what he deserved because that's what he did. That's what he brought to the competition, and the competition knocked him out. Okay. America would not care if there was an Indian American immigrant as the first person to land on Mars. In your head, do you think America would mind, right? I mean, the character of Apu on The Simpsons is seen as a respectable character. Like, the guy worked really hard. We would make fun of his funny culture, like, was it Calcutta Technical University or something like that? And we'd make fun of his punch cards that, like, Homer pulls one out and just ruins the whole thing, so he just throws the whole thing in the garbage. You know, we make fun of the fact that he has a really high degree and he just runs a store, a convenience store in Springfield, right? So I have to remember all these names, by the way. I'm terrible at recall of proper nouns when I'm in front of a camera. The camera like sucks away 20 IQ points, which makes a lot of sense for why YouTube is the way it is. Thank you for bearing with me. People don't mind Apu. We will make fun of them. Like, part of America is also being kind of racist in a fun way. There's like a fun racist and a mean racist. Like, a mean racist is burning a cross on your front lawn, okay? A fun racist is like making a joke that even the person who the joke is on finds funny. Like, you gotta let people be in on the joke that's on them. And then he's a guy who's also gonna take the joke when it comes back to him, right? And it's not this undercurrent of, where it's not this undercurrent of negativity where it's like, oh, it's just banter, but I really meant it, which is a lot of banter, in my opinion. America likes to have this sort of stuff and have a little bit of that friendly rivalry, friendly competition. Now, if you start asking for favoritism or special treatment in the American model, you're seen as the villain. You're seen as weak. You are seen as unable to regulate yourself and unable to win on your own, right? So America's already litigated in the court of law and the court of public opinion that we are not an ethnic favoritism state. Okay, the Ku Klux Klan lost, all right? So when people start talking about ethnicity this and ethnicity that in America and how multiculturalism doesn't exist, I'm like, are you crazy? Are you blind? Are you silly? Are you on Twitter way too much, right? Because that's the only explanation I can think of. Like, Tim Pool is from Chicago. Tim Pool's from Chicago. I am certain he met people who are of different cultures. He probably worked with people who have different cultures. Okay, but what he's talking about, I think, is that you can't have a culture that hates the free competition. Okay, and Europe is a collection of ethnic states. Remember, like Germany is for Germans who are Germanic, right? However, if they're going to be under American essentially management, right, America is going to start imposing its values. Now, the multiculturalism that's going on in Europe is the stupidest kind, where they import all of the really crappy people. Like, I don't meet a ton of like Indian cab drivers, although I've not ridden in a lot of cabs. I usually meet like they're Hispanic or from another country, but I don't know. Like ours are doing actual work, and typically not on benefits, with some exceptions in Democrat cities. Which again, that's why the Democrats are losing, is because the American taste isn't for tipping the scales in people's favor and just giving and doing the gives. Like the UK has a concept of benefits, and they're okay with the benefits as long as it's going to other English people who have like paid into the system and participated in it. We wouldn't want the system of benefits because Americans are very independently minded. We would prefer to just be responsible for saving up for our own stuff. Okay, that's also why like labor unions and stuff have kind of fallen out of grace in the American consciousness, because if you're not able to, now labor unions do have a place, by the way, especially for safety standards. But when it comes to like, oh, I need a pension, I need this, I need that, I was like, well, just save your money, man. Right? Why don't you just ask for more pay and then save your money and manage it yourself? Like, why do you need the company to manage it? Why do you need this third party to manage it? And then, oh, the pension blew all its money and we need to save the pensions. Like, no, just save your own money. I don't know. Americans find that kind of gross. So this benefit system that Europe has, where it's trying to take care of its own people, like as if they're a family, like one big family, is backfiring because they can't really restrict it from the foreigners as well, right? It's not in their taste to do so. Like, there's some disjoint there. There's going to be a culture war there. They're going to have to fight. They're going to have to litigate it, just like America had to fight against like their own internal culture problems, like the Ku Klux Klan and Jim Crow and that sort of stuff, right? The management of your ethnicities in America is through head-to-head competition, okay? Advantages and disadvantages are allowed, all right? But changing rules is not. So if you don't want to compete against the entire globe, well, good effing luck, because you will compete against the entire globe. If you want to be number one, if you want to say America's number one, you're going to have to prove it all the time, right? Because the corporations get a massive say in how our politics work, because the corporations are what make us number one, all right? We're not like number one because of just independent people doing stuff, right? Like, it makes a good country, but if America wants to go to Mars or do any other great thing that we're proud of, and America, by the way, it is in our nature to want to do great things, well, you're going to have to import people to do it or produce them yourselves, all right? But for some reason, Americans tend to not be able to go head to head against the top in India and the top in like South China, despite the fact that Americans have way more advantages in terms of like nutrition. I'd say that the culture is pretty good. I think the problem is this. Like, this is the problem, right? This right here is the problem that most Americans have. This is why you're mediocre, because you can't regulate your phone usage, to be honest, right? You're on YouTube all day. I listen to it like talk radio, but people are on Twitter for super long amounts of time. Like, maybe look in the mirror. Maybe you're the reason why things are being held back, right? I mean, I'm sorry. Remember, zero agreeability. You have to be part of this game. And America doesn't like mediocre people. Like, our entire ethnic organization is based on competition. We would not care, like America would not largely care if there's an Indian American. Like if Vivek Ramaswamy ran and won presidency, like if he ran as the Republican president, you would have the ethno-nationalist conservatives be sidelined so bloody fast if they made him being an Indian a big deal. And right now the ethno-nationalist conservatives are so irrelevant and relegated to the back corner that they haven't been attacked yet. But the fact that they annoyed Elon and got his gaze means they will be attacked at some point. Like he says that they need to be removed from the Republican Party. I mean, right now, if the Republican Party wants to win elections in America, well, probably will have to, because that sort of ethnic favoritism or disfavoritism is not tolerated in America. It just isn't. We don't care, right? As I said before, our steel industry, which is one of our most proud industries, was created by a Scotsman. All right, Scotland is not the same culture. Could you say that Scotland is the same culture as England? I don't think so, especially back in Carnegie's day, right? Henry Ford is the son of I think it was a Belgian woman and an Irish father, right? Okay. They're immigrants. He's the second generation, right? Which is, I think, what Vivek is as well. So Henry Ford versus Vivek, there's not that much difference in terms of like being away. Now, do you favor Europeans? We'll see. We'll see who gets favored. If you think Europeans can build the whole world, right, then why is Europe in the state that it's in right now? Okay? America has head-to-head competition. That's how we can process migrants, is because we don't mind sending these migrants back home, or if they're low quality. Remember, we're going after the criminals first. The working illegal immigrants, we'll get to them later, according to Homan and Trump, right? They're kind of tolerated, and they've been tolerated for a while. America doesn't mind, as an empire, does not mind full disenfranchisement of any particular ethnic group if they're not performing, right? Remember, when the steel workers unionized and drove up the cost of steel and drove up the cost of their labor, the steel industry just outsourced and just left all of these kind of Anglos in the Rust Belt to just basically just die off. They didn't care. And America wrote some sad songs, and America felt bad about it, but America didn't do anything, not for decades. It's just kind of like, that's what you get. That's how much favoritism you get. We don't care if you were born here or not. What we want is the American spirit of free and open competition. We want to see that fight head to head. And the problem is, if America is now going to be managing the entire West, Europe, America's going to want to see the same thing there, most likely. All right, so that's a bitter pill to swallow. Things are changing. All empires change everything, right? The colonies of Europe were all basically turned into economic zones, and it became a meritocracy of who can deliver on their quota the best, like which families can do it. So my ancestors were the best ones, and we were put in charge of Jakarta, and we stayed in charge of Jakarta for a long time. And because we were the best, we rose up to the top. We won the meritocracy, the global competitive meritocracy. And we were not the local ethnic group either, at all. We were not. So now you know. That's how it's going to go. Changes are coming. You just have to strap in and, I don't know, try to survive. Anyways, sorry to be dour. I'm actually excited for the change. I'm looking forward to seeing what humanity can do. As a Christian, I believe that it is the will of God that all are to be saved. And I also feel this is a fallen world. We all fall short of the glory of God. And I don't really favor any particular ethnic group. My home is in heaven, not in any particular country or place, right? And my brothers and sisters are all the people of the earth, because I'm a Christian, and that's what we believe. We're all a family. If you believe in Christ, you're welcome to my family. And if you believe in America, welcome to my country. We'll take all fighters, all right? You guys have a good one. Like, comment, subscribe, do all that good stuff. Have a good one.